Blueprint family, how y'all doing tonight? Thank you all for joining us. So tonight's topic is, should your spouse's problems become your problems?
Hmm.
Good question.
Yeah, it's a pretty tricky one where it can go either way, right? I mean, I guess because it just
It depends on
really, yeah,
depends
depends.
on what they are.
Yeah, right. Right. Because I mean, I guess you would automatically think, oh, heck yeah. But, in some places, no. And in particular, we have a great letter that we're going to dive into that actually demonstrates, I think, how important it is to try to iron out a lot of your problems before you get into a relationship. Duh, that seems like something that a person would think to do, but believe it or not, a lot of times you can get into a relationship and you really don't know that these may be problems that you may have until your spouse is like, this is too much. So in this letter, this guy is really showing that. And this is a pretty long letter. So we're going to do things a little bit different than usually, where I'll go ahead and read the letter and then you'll help dissect it. But I think this time we should
Do it
just go
along the
through
way.
it because it's so much and it's really good to kind of break down and dissect as we go along. We're going to see how this, goes on as a new method for tonight. As always, Instagram, right, can check out.
Yeah, for the Instagram followers, check out our YouTube so you can actually follow along and see the letter that is posted. And then also too, if you all can please like, share, and subscribe this video, we really appreciate it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Blueprint Family Jewels, and
Let's go.
let's go ahead and start.
So, yeah. Basically, I'm starting to feel burnt out by my girlfriend's issues. Well, so they say we've been together for almost a year now, both 29. I love her to bits, but there are a couple things that have really been getting to me recently. For a bit of context, these things have been ongoing since the start of our relationship, but especially got to me after a recent trip we went on last couple of days. I want to stop right here because this part is like it reminds me of just putting off,
What is it? For a bit of context, these
yeah,
things have been going on since
the
the
start
start
of
of the
our
relationship.
relationship.
Red flags. You
Yeah.
need to figure out why you're having issues from the start of your
hmm
relationship.
And what's that about? Because especially when it comes to something that may be bothering you, if you ignore it for so long, then you're just
You
going to miss the opportunity to
well,
bring
not
it up.
not
The
only that,
opportune time, I guess.
not only that, you're also enabling. You're
Yes.
enabling the situation to get worse than what it already is. So by you just allowing this stuff to transpire, then yes, it is your problem. To
Right.
be honest with you, because you're allowing it.
Yes. The main thing is when you recognize that this is an issue and it starts here, it's just starting here, you bring it up in a way so that you can address it. A way like you can, in a way, preventive measures of making sure that it doesn't get worse. Because what happens is it does get worse.
Yep, resentment. If especially if you hold it in, you start harboring feelings of resentment,
hmm
and regret,
Yeah.
those type of things. And if you keep holding it in, you'll start competing with your spouse when it comes to things and arguing and
hmm
ultimately dooming the relationship. So let's continue.
Yeah. You want to start?
Firstly, and the biggest factor is her negativity.
Mm.
All right. I think that goes without saying. She's pretty much always looks at the negative side of things. She's a pessimist. That's what he's saying. She gets down, upset a lot. And when I ask her about it, a lot of times she's either says she doesn't know why or she refuses to tell me, saying it's petty or not worth bothering me about.
That's important, I think, for the simple fact that
Mm.
you should know your emotions. I recognize this as you not even being aware of yourself and your own emotions
You
and
talking about
what's
the
going
female?
on. Because in my wife economics course, the whole first week, we spend a great deal working on being able to recognize and verbalize, putting a literal word to your emotions that you have throughout the day. by just coming into this awareness of what emotions you feel throughout the day, the rise and fall or the even killness that you may have throughout the day. Just this being able to recognize it will help you to be in more control of what's going on. You're able to put a word to it and know what to do about it. Here, you're upset. This woman is upset and she doesn't even know why. So, of course, she's not going to know what to do about it or to tell him. Now, again, that's a huge issue within herself that has to be addressed. And it's really not much that he can do about that. So, this goes kind of back to the topic of should your spouse's problems become your problems? If they don't even know what the problem is, that's just something to think about. So,
Right. And I mean, and to continue on,
yeah.
she cries multiple times a week. That is a hormonal issue. That sounds like a hormonal issue. Either she got something personal that she has going on, or either infidelity and guilt. You don't know. It's hard to figure this thing out without actually communication and talking
Yeah.
about why are you crying.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, for example, on our trip, both nights we stayed at the hotel. She ended crying multiple times in the night over the fact that she was having trouble sleeping. Wow, that's something. There, she needs to really go and get some medical help, some physical help,
Right.
mental help. She needs to get some help.
Yeah, especially if you don't know, if you're just up crying. I mean, this could be an issue where you may need some, they have things like CBD or like, sleep medicine if it's extreme, but it's just something that needs to be addressed.
I think it's more so she's having a hormonal issue. Too much estrogen, maybe.
Could be. And
She's
it's a whole bunch of things.
she's I'm not here to diagnose. We're
Yeah.
not medical. For
Could
disclaimer,
be.
we are not medical
Right.
professionals. So
Right.
therefore, we are not here to give medical advice. So don't take medical advice from us. She
Right.
also cried.
Except for eat well and getting plenty of sleep. Eat organic food
And drink your water.
and drink your water.
Like I do.
Yeah.
She also cried when I went outside to sit and watch the view because she thought I didn't want to be around her. That sounds a lot like hormones.
Yeah, or having like that negative talk within herself could maybe like make her, she's thinking, but maybe catastrophizing or thinking like worse than what things really are, when it's just because she has such a glim all the time. That can be kind of hard to pull yourself out of if you're like suffering from depression or something. Some people, like, when they have that issue of like just negative thoughts within their mind, it can kind of project onto their spouse. That's what it really seems like here, because she's already going through something. She's having trouble sleeping, so she's clearly already going through something. But you really just, I don't know, that's just, to me, seems like a projection of something going on within her,
Of course.
Yeah, because I don't see. Yeah.
You want me to continue? Where we at? She has also told me she hides it from me sometimes when she's sad, because she doesn't want me to see her sad and she doesn't want to bring me down. Some small things can set her off sometimes too.
I do want to pause because
Uh-huh.
we're hitting on a lot of good stuff that, if we're not going to go back and break it down anymore. Yeah, I do. So that in particular, she has told me that she hides it from me sometimes when she's sad. That is also a big issue, because it's important, especially if you're asking her like, hey, what's wrong? And it also makes me wonder, are you asking her and are you guys really communicating that well? And it could, again, be maybe her shutting down. But this whole concept of her thinking that you don't want to be around, if this isn't a projection, then maybe it's just a lack of communication, and that you guys really just have to look to communicate a lot more, especially maybe even creating a safe space for her to communicate in. I don't know, the concept of her hiding, especially if you're in a relationship, you're supposed to feel safe with your spouse to want to talk about things. So, and for her, if she's not feeling safe to do that, it really should make her consider whether or not she is ready to be in a relationship. Because if you can't express yourself, the first issue for me was not being able to put a word to why you're crying or what's wrong or why you feel the way you do. If you cannot do those things, how else are you going to be able to communicate this to your spouse so that you all can have a functioning relationship? So.
Yeah, because it's weird to me. Seems as if I was him, it seems like she's cheating and she's like horribly, guilty about it. Either that or either she's having hormonal issues. I don't know why she want to hide that. Maybe she doesn't even know that she's having hormonal issues, and she probably had these all her life. So
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's 29 at this point, so it could be something that has been, like you said, occurring for a long time, which then would make it a really hard habit to break, and probably something that needs to be addressed before even getting into a relationship.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much a habit. I think it's something medical or mental that's going on with her.
Well, creates habits that, the habit of running away, the habit of, not talking or expressing yourself, those just things, those attributes of the mental issue.
Or either some childhood trauma.
Right.
That she endured, and she still holds on to that.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
Oh, where we at? I don't even know.
So, she does want to bring, sometimes small things can set her off too. Okay. That reminds me of just when you have so many things being held in and you're not getting them out and expressing them, then it can just, when, you tip off, it just, it's like a rage, and some people say,
well, yeah, she's always,
don't do that.
She's always on the edge, on edge because of her, condition that she has going on.
Yeah.
So if I look at her in the wrong way, sometimes that can upset her. Or if I just want to sit down in bed and not be hugging, cuddling, she thinks that I don't like physical contact with her. I try to support her in the best way I can, but it never seems to help.
Yeah, because it's not supposed to.
There's nothing you can do.
Yeah,
there's nothing that you can do for them.
Right.
You can only support them.
Right.
As far as being of service to them, making sure that they're taken care of. But all of this stuff that she has going on, she really needs to figure this thing out for herself.
Right, because you don't want to feel like you're walking on eggshells when you're in a relationship. That's not fun. And for you, something as simple as you not knowing the way you're looking at her would send her off the edge. That's a lack of control on her part for her emotions. And in some ways, sometimes that can be abusive, and that behavior, if it continues and it's condoned, it can become abusive because it's not something that she'll check or she'll recognize as something that I don't need to be doing. That's a bit extreme. My husband, you look at me in a bunch of ways, but I would never, fly off the handle because of that. It doesn't make sense. So that within itself, to me, shows that she should certainly consider whether or not a relationship is something she's ready to be in, because you can't control what your spouse does. All you can do is control your response to it and what you do, thereafter. So that response. So, it's like, hey, I don't know. That to me shows a lack of maturity. And that's super important for a relationship, for the simple fact of respect. You can't have respect if you aren't mature enough to recognize immature ways. Yeah.
I still think it's something medical.
Yeah. Which, if it is,
that's unchecked. A lot of people have mental issues that they don't even know they have, and it goes unchecked. And you do, I wonder if he brings that up in this letter.
Yeah, and that is true without our society being that way. With it is mental illness being run rampant throughout our society, and no real resources for people to get help. A lot of people are just ignored or
medicated.
Yeah, or medicated. So it's double-edged, and sometimes that's what deters people from going to get help, because they don't want to be medicated. They want just to be able to talk through things and work through things. But again, this is why it's super important that you really do take the time if you are in a relationship, dating, because they're not married, they are just dating, boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. Especially during this stage, if you recognize while you're dating that, hey, I may have some issues that I need to work on, it's really within the best interest of not only your spouse but yourself that you take a step back and say, hey, I need to work on these things for myself so that I'm not hurting you or causing any strain on what could be a beautiful relationship if the time was taken to do that personal development that's really needed to sustain a relationship.
Yep. Or either you decide to accept those things and try to, go through the motions with them. So the
Yeah.
choice is yours.
Right.
So you're gonna have to accept the consequences of both going without them or going with them. So
Right. Yeah, yeah, and that's again, I was kind of speaking on the woman's part because I
well,
think
I
that's
was speaking
important.
from
But
the
you're
man's
speaking from, and I
perspective.
think that is so true.
Right. I mean, because it all be, I'm so in love with her,
Yeah,
despite her,
yeah.
situation. But you should be transparent, both
Mhm.
man and woman. If you like, we've talked about in our past video about health issues,
Mhm.
mental issues, or what have you. You don't want to go into a relationship and you're 4 years in, and oh, by the way, I have mental issues.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be
Mhm.
transparent about all of that stuff
Right.
in the beginning. So I mean, you owe it to them. They're being honest with you. You need to be clear and transparent with them as well. You
Yeah.
know. So it feels like we can't go more than a couple of days with what's this without her crying about something, or even a day without her getting sad about something. He sounds like a very tired boyfriend.
Yeah.
We've talked about getting her some help. Okay. She's spoken to her doctor and has said she's on a waiting list to see a psychiatrist, but she has been waiting for months. She refuses to take medication. So she
This
already been diagnosed with medication.
right with something. So this is where we were just hitting on, and that is the issue with what seems to be mental illness within our country and being able to get help and get the resources you need that doesn't just require you being medicated.
Right. Well, I mean, I also believe that there's a lot of work that modern medicine need to do more research on as far as mental health. Because not everyone needs medication. A lot of times they just throw medication at people. I mean, but what do I know? I'm not a doctor.
Right.
So, it all depends. There's different approaches to different certain situations, but
Yeah.
you can't always medicate somebody out of mental health or or what have you.
Yeah,
She may
right.
need, I don't know what her situation is, but often at times a lot of people need to just talk. They just need to talk to somebody about what they're going through.
And process emotions in a healthy way, learn
Right.
healthier ways to communicate and express those emotions. I think, in particular, that is something that she's lacked because she hasn't been able to do this. And that's his biggest complaint. She'll be upset and crying and don't know why. She's up at night, can't sleep, and don't know why. It's all these things that's happening and she does not know why. And then when she just snaps, she takes it out on him and she doesn't know why.
Right.
But all of that is just because she hasn't found how to properly express your emotions and process your emotions and move through your emotions. That is, believe it or not, that is something that has to be learned. And I see it in particular with our children every day. If you talk about a child just simply going through a range of emotions, when they feel them, they don't know what to do, they don't know what's going on. And until somebody helps them to understand, oh, you're feeling this way. Why are you feeling this way? Let's recognize then, okay, acknowledge you're feeling this way. What can you do to help you feel better? What is the next things to move forward to? It's like that disconnect of, oh, you're just stuck and oh, this emotion and you don't know what to do about it. That, believe it or not, is something that has to be learned. And I think it's really important that our children are taught these things, because if not, when you get older, you don't have the skills you need to be in a relationship and process through life because you struggle processing through it with yourself. So, yeah. That's super big.
Okay. I don't blame her for being depressed. Not do I hold it against her. She's had a rough past, including parental abuse and abandonment, rape, child death, self harm, and self deletion attempts. Wow, she has a lot. Wow. I was not expecting that, but the constant cycle of negative emotions is slowly grinding me down.
Yeah, and that
Wow.
constant, I recognize that constant cycle of when you go through trauma, and especially when it happens from childhood, that trauma, in a way, the brain becomes like addicted to the fight or flight adrenaline, the emotions that you just go through, the high that you get from going through all these issues, and it's not something that your brain recognizes as,
Wow.
it's something that you need to, it's not something that it wants. Let me say that it's not something that the brain wants to do, but because it happens so much, because it is so repetitive and a cycle, the brain just naturally goes to that and does that. And that is really why it's so important that if you have had a rough childhood, not downplaying any of this, all of this is extremely sad. And I'm so sorry that she had to go through this, but it's so sad that this is so common. This type of trauma is deeply rooted within society. I think everybody needs some type of therapy to process some type of trauma they have gone through within their childhood. But
Mm.
that just makes it super important to do this before you get into a relationship, because you won't know that how much this is impacting your spouse, and really ultimately it's going to drive your spouse away. He says the constant cycle is slowly grinding me down. Think about it. If he's never experienced this, he didn't have, say he came from a good solid home, two-parent childhood home, that great ideal conditions, or even just not, super rich, but just nice, simple, average family conditions, not having to experience this would be huge difference for him. This would be a shock. It would be a lot. Him just processing the fact that his girlfriend has gone through it would be a lot. And then to see the perpetual cycle of that trauma play out on her is going to be a lot for him too. So you just really got to consider how much you're bringing your spouse into your problems if you don't take the time to heal yourself and
First.
process yourself. Yeah.
Okay. So the second thing is her eating habits. Well, no, of course, she's probably comfort eating a lot in order to cope.
Wow. I don't know. Let's see.
She is extremely restricted and fussy eater. For example, a shop bought quiche can be delicious one time, but the next time with the same quiche from the same shop, she will put a piece in her mouth and have to spit it out without even chewing. This makes cooking for her, ordering takeout or taking her out places to eat very difficult. I want to do so, but I've come to dread it as I can't guarantee there will be any dishes she likes the look of, let alone enjoys, is edible. I mean, is able to eat when she takes a bite.
Yeah,
Um,
let's stop right here. That was a lot, and this needs to be addressed. So, her eating habits.
that's part of her mental illness. That goes part of the mental illness.
Yeah, and again, not a doctor, but maybe some form of autism on the scale of that. Sometimes that's could be one of the things where they're quite,
Yeah, or either the trauma, those traumas. That has something to do
yeah,
with it too.
yeah.
Um,
Again, we don't really quite know, but that certainly, again, it goes back to, sir, this is not an ideal companionship to be in, because it's impossible to please her, and that can do horrible things for your self-esteem and for your confidence, because if you're never able to make your spouse happy, then I mean, how do you know that they're really into you? or loving
Well,
the
I mean, I think
experience.
she's into him, and she needs him. She wants him. She, probably they're stuck on each other, and she'll know what to do without him.
Yeah, but
But
is that good for him though? Like,
no,
cause
no, it's
he's
not. I mean, it's not because he's asking for help. Evidently, this is weighing him down. It's going to weigh you down being with a person like this. No disrespect, and I don't even think you can fix someone like this. I mean, I don't even think they can fix themselves, to be honest with you. So, do they deserve no one?
no.
You get what
I
I'm
think that
saying?
this can be fixed.
I
Like
I don't know. I don't know. This is something that's you look at all those at the top, all of
I
what she's been
understand
through.
all of that, but I know a lot of things can be fixed if you choose to actively and proactively do the work that's required to do it. But my
I,
just main issue
mm,
here is that he's not being treated with respect as far as just little things like trying to
she,
cook for her or like ordering for her. It makes things very difficult. You cannot have a relationship regardless of again, you cannot have these issues not be worked out because you can't have a relationship that doesn't have that respect and consideration. That is what a relationship is about. He will feel taken advantage of. Your spouse will feel like they can never please you, and no one wants to be in a relationship with anybody like that. That's just, it's not healthy. It's not at all. So I can't even chalk that up to, oh, but she needs him and all this other stuff, because no, she needs help. She doesn't need him. And at the same time, it's hurting him. And what she's doing to him is not doing anything but pushing him away. Like, sheesh. Have y'all even established? Y'all have been together for about a year. Have y'all even established like roles, like who does what for each other? Like, how do y'all like meals? Not saying that the woman always have to cook or something like that, but if she is having issues figuring out what she wants to eat, maybe she should be the one who's initiating most of the cooking or preparing the meals
right.
or whatever
Now,
the case may be.
I do know that a lot of times people who are depressed they lose appetite. So that's probably what she's going through. Um,
I understand that being an
again,
issue, but even so, if you decide something is simple, like something is delicious one day and not delicious the next day, that was obviously a decision of something that you had wanted to make. Now, taking that and kind of like making it a Debbie Downer situation to me does seem more like the mental illness part, maybe. But
yeah, one can only speculate. We don't know.
yeah, you just really have to consider, especially if a lot of these issues were going on in the beginning. We have to go back to that. You said that a lot of this you saw in the beginning. If these were issues that were really bothering you, you have to consider if that's something that you want to deal with. Can you always deal with not being able to satisfy your spouse? And even still, again, in a relationship, if she's realizing that the things she doesn't know what to eat or want to eat or whatever the case may be, there should be some cooperation with trying to make, things mutual, everybody satisfied and happy, not just her always upset and him always trying to appease her.
Again, I don't blame her for this. I've always taken the position of if she enjoys it, great. If not, then oh well. I do everything I can to never belittle her for her eating habits or forcing guilt her to eat something she doesn't want to, but it is wearing me out a bit. To
Exactly.
be fair on her, she is always willing to try new things, but it is rare that she can find something she considers enjoyable.
Right. And so that's not fun.
The only other thing worth mentioning is small. She has a comfort blanket she rubs when she's anxious. It's made of polyester, and the sound it makes she rubs is like nails on a chalkboard to me. I don't have an issue with the blanket itself, but the sound. She gets a little down when I ask her if she can stop when she's around me, as I find it grating. She likes it when she's anxious, but I can't see a way around the issue of the noise. Yeah, she has some mental things going on with her. Sounds like autism, anxiety, depression. She has all of those put together.
Yeah, it sounds like a
I'm not.
self-soothing technique that she
Does she need
adapted during trauma.
or something
Oftentimes
that she
when yeah.
carried as a child? To
Well,
be
yeah,
honest
because
with
when
you,
you're going through a traumatic experience, the child
you
has
look
to
for some
figure out,
comfort.
yeah, ways to comfort herself. So
This is sad.
that's what she chose. Now, again, that's tough. But if you knew this from the beginning, these are things that you have to be aware of. Now, again, I'm not saying that you just run and jump ship at every little problem, but that's not a little problem. This is something that she has adopted into being something that, she likes and it's healthy for her. There's nothing wrong with something that she's adopted to really help her during her anxious periods. The issue comes in is if you can't tolerate that. You are allowed to have your respectful space of not wanting that to take place or something that you can tolerate. And in no way does that make you seem like a bad person. That honestly, the vibes that I've been getting from this letter from kind of the beginning is that he's feeling guilt because he likes her, but he recognizes a lot of things that he just can't deal with. But he doesn't want to feel like a bad guy for walking away.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not at all the case. It's okay to prioritize your happiness in a relationship in the sense of if there are issues that are going on and you can't necessarily adjust or compromise or find a middle ground, then, maybe that's because the relationship might not be for you. In particular, I really, 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 really think that she has a lot of things that she has to work out in order for her to even be in the best person for herself to have a good relationship. How are you ever going to feel positive about your relationship if you can't even feel positive about your food? That mindset is everything when it comes to things. It's everything. So, yeah.
All right. This isn't to say that she isn't trying to do better. Okay. So that's your. For example, when we first got together, she had some issues with drinking. When she got drunk, she would get very angry and shout at me over very small things. Like one time she left my headphones at the pub. We went back to get them as they were in the town over. We had to drive the whole journey. She was in a foul mood and shouted at me for not was that supporting
Oh, sorry.
her because she was in a bad mood and making her feel like crap by going back for my headphones. They were a fairly expensive set of headphones, so I wanted them back. We talked about that, and she did recognize she isn't great when drunk. So nowadays she tried to avoid drinking too much. So she is working on improving. That's good, improving on herself. But in other ways, it feels like little or no progress at all. I understand that.
Yeah. So I want to address this. Of course, drinking issues. I always encourage you know how you are when you drink and really have that under control, but oftentimes when you drink, if you don't have your emotions under control when you're sober, you're certainly not going to have them under control when you're drunk. So that's another key dilemma that you would have to really consider if this is something you want to deal with. There is always going to be something when you're in a relationship and you're going through life with somebody. It's super important to consider how they respond to life's disasters or life's inconveniences, because when that happens, it's, to me, super important that you are able to stay positive and maintain composure or handle things in a proper way and not, make things worse. Or at least in particular, that's the most ideal way to go about things. Here, again, it's very point out that she can't handle her emotions. So when she lashes out over little small things when she's sober, she'll do it again when she's drunk. And that's something to really even encourage if you can have fun with this person, because you just don't know. That to me is it's dangerous. That's a very dangerous relationship to be in because you don't know how things are going to go. Yeah.
All right. Go back.
That was it.
Okay. All right. And then, so can I please get some advice on how to proceed, where to go from here? These issues have not improved much since we've got together. I really love her, and she's wonderful, caring, lovely girl when she's in the right mood, but I'm starting to feel a bit burnt out. Yeah. You I always one of my models is that you can't be responsible. Don't be responsible for other people's irresponsibilities. You all are not married. And I understand the fact that, like my wife said, it seems as if that you're guilt tripping yourself and you don't want to leave this relationship because you know that she has problems.
Yeah.
But the thing is that she may be working on some of the small problems, but the major ones she refused to work on those. So you
What are the small ones? I don't mean to laugh at that, but I haven't quite seen. And that's the
to
thing.
me,
I
like
haven't
the eating
seen.
thing, that's probably the smallest.
How
But
is that worked on though? I
but the
didn't even
thing
see
is
that
is
worked
that
on.
well, she needs to cook her own food.
Yeah.
The thing is that you're not you all are boyfriend and girlfriend. I always say this, this is the audition for marriage. And to
Right.
me, she's blowing the audition, regardless of the fact that I understand that you have to give her some grace because of her past traumas. And
Yeah.
those aren't small past traumas. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that. But you have to understand that she's not getting any help for those. So what does that say about you and her life and how much she values you? And that's what the issue is that she's not trying to make herself better to be marriage fit for you.
Yeah.
So if you all haven't, they've talked about this. I know you all have, and so therefore, um,
What, the
you know,
therapy?
knows of her trying to get better
Oh, okay. Okay.
overall, just to maintain a relationship. Now you have to understand this: is that if you uh, are in a position where you feel that um you don't know whether you can carry on doing this. This man is explicitly stated multiple times that he's burnt out.
Yeah.
I think that you need to separate yourself from this situation. You yourself need to go talk to somebody, get some professional help, and see how you can de-stress from this situation. And ultimately, I myself, I would not be in a situation like this if I was single. A 29-year-old man who's single, and I'm saying that you single because you all only been together for a year, and
Mhm.
she's showing outside of her traumas, she has issues, with alcohol, and she has issues with her temper.
And working together,
Right.
compromising. It's so many issues. But again, a lot of the things haven't been worked on, even within herself. And you said, like, throughout this letter, he's pointed out that he's burnt out. It's so important to honor yourself. It's literally, I'm sure after writing this, hopefully he came to some conclusions within himself that I can't do this.
A healthy relationship doesn't equal burnout.
No,
A
at all.
bad job equals burnout. So if
Yes.
you have a bad job and your relationship is horrible, you're always burnt out. So what
Yeah.
happens is that you break down and then you blow up, and you don't want that to
Yeah.
happen. So that's just why I said that he needs professional help as well, because he's due for a blow up, and you don't
Yeah.
know what in form of matter or what that may look like. You don't want to become violent. You don't want that to happen at all. But
Yeah.
I can honestly say that this woman is too overwhelming for you,
Yeah.
and that you need to seek an exit strategy. This is just my advice. Some
Yeah.
people may say, "Oh man, no, she needs help, and you need to be there for her to support her." No, I think that she needs to go on that journey alone. She needs her parents to support her, if or her guardian, her previous guardian. I know she's 29, but she
Yeah.
needs family to support her, and I hope she has some.
Yeah.
But at the same token, you can't put your life on pause.
Or jeopardize yourself.
Right. Because of this. Because if you're boyfriend and girlfriend, like I said, that is an audition for marriage. And it may be seem cold hearted. It may be, be sound cruel for you to leave someone who may have some past traumas. But like we always say, that you need to work on those as best as you can to before you get into a marriage. And the problem here is this: she's not working on those at all,
Yeah.
and she refused to work on those issues.
I
So
feel like it's more
it's not going to
traumatic
work.
for the person to even have to deal with your traumas. And
Yeah, it
particularly,
is.
she's gone through a lot. So just that within itself, kind of like we pointed out in the beginning, if he never had any type of hard childhood or anything, he wouldn't know what to do. All of this would be
Well, I mean,
like,
he doesn't know what to do.
right. All of this would be like, whoa, like
Because
this is
he's,
a lot.
I mean, I can tell that he's a kind, caring person,
Right. Me too.
and he's
Me
a good
too.
man, to
Right.
want to hang around
And
her.
that's not to say that she doesn't deserve someone like that. And because I can totally understand that probably deep down in her heart, she's so grateful for him and having him that she, loves, that part of him being so nice and so caring and all that other stuff. But you, by not healing your traumas, will inevitably destroy the relationship.
Right.
So it's like, it's like, do you let it go and allow yourself to work on yourself the right way, process the emotions, leave on amicable terms, like address that, hey, I got some stuff I need to work on, like, and leave it at that. And then maybe even if he's, still single later on, try to pick that back up, especially you guys say y'all really love each other and stuff like that. But I think it's more torturous for a person to go through the problems and the traumas of another person when they had, they didn't necessarily ask for that when looking for a relationship. And that's not, like you said, that's not love. That doesn't equate to that. That love is supposed to make you feel good. You're supposed to be excited to be around this person. Their energy should uplift you. It should be a connection. And in particular, when you're in a relationship, a real good one, it's supposed to help you want to be better. So a lot of this stuff, if you guys have talked about it, I don't know how much you guys have talked about it, but if you haven't had too much conversation on it, go back and talk about it and really talk to the sense of, these are the things that I really need to be worked on, especially if you love her and you want to see her get better, and show her, kick it to her from the perspective of, these things are really going to help you become better, because, it's learning proper ways of communicating, handling your emotions, how to compromise and work in a situation, or even just plain and simple, how not to be negative when things just don't go your way. I mean, those are, basic fundamental skills that are going to help you to have a good relationship, and they're super important that you are able to have them. And if you don't, you gotta really back from the relationship and take that time to get those skills and really help yourself be better, so that you can then do the same thing in a relationship. It really set in a way, I kind of think this relationship, it would be kind of dampering her progress, because she may think, oh, I got someone and he's gonna be around, and so he's been around for me for this whole time of me doing this, he's gonna be around.
Right. But you gotta, she suffers from like other issues too, so she may not even think about or care, to be honest with you. But yeah, she's either, if you do leave her, you got to understand that either she's going to go under into more depression, or either she's going to take the opportunity to actually become better. But the problem is that you're with her and she's not, I've said this before, she's not trying to get better. And so therefore you're kind of, you may be enabling her, like my wife said, because she's feel as if that, she has a man around her,
a good man at that,
right? And she's good with, just being, all right, just being okay,
and not even that, being mean, like she's being mean, she's not conducting,
well, she may
things
think
in
that
the right
she's
way.
being all right and being okay. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that sucks. That's so unfortunate.
Yeah, that's not healthy at all. But yeah, so you need to take time away from this relationship, allow her to get better, and then assess your options.
Maybe family, break up with family and notify family. I always think that's a good thing to do if she does have family, like you said. We don't know, especially considering all the traumas,
and all that, because she's
friends, close friends,
and then try to attempt self-deletion on top of that. So
notify,
you need to let someone know that she needs to be watched and cared for. Because you have to endure a separation from your girlfriend,
right? And you care about her, so in no way are we saying go about this in a rude way. Certainly, if you can set up all preparations in the best way possible, maybe even helping. I don't know if you guys live together. I don't know if you mentioned that in this, but if y'all live together, maybe give her time to, help her find new living quarters and everything. Like, just try to help
accommodate her
Yeah, and get
and
yourself
help her
out of it,
exit,
and yeah,
help her exit, and as
yeah,
long as you know, and
in a
also with
safe and
yours,
peaceful way, and you as well, because you just don't know. You want to protect yourself as well. You don't know
how she gonna
how
take it.
she,
You
yeah,
know, she
she
could
has,
be violent and
right,
just
because
be
she has
belligerent.
been. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
and
know,
maybe record. I'm
I
always
would
a
say have a
recommend of,
third party over.
yeah, yeah,
Your mama, both two people
maybe
that
that
represent somebody that
psychiatrist.
represents her and somebody who represents you.
Yeah,
If all else fails, then you know you ain't got. If you don't have anybody, then contact the local police department
they have
and have
therapists. The
them.
therapist too. The a part of the police where it's not directly a police department, but like the therapy
Well,
people.
some yeah,
I
they
can't think of what
call
it's
well in New
called.
York they passed the law and it's called a non-armed I forgot what it's called, non-armed officer. That's what it's
Yeah.
called,
Okay. Yeah.
unarmed
Yeah.
officer.
Yeah. That would be good if
Yeah,
you don't have any other
you,
options. Yeah.
you know, try to seek some sort of third party mediator. Um,
Yeah.
by all means, because you don't want this to be violent. You know, of course, these things happen, so
Yeah.
you want to make sure that your bases are covered.
Yeah. And you're safe and protected.
Yep, because that's what that you got to and plan a proper exit strategy. If you living with her, have someone over to help you move your stuff out,
Yeah.
or if she has someone, or if she's living with you, have like I said, a family representative, someone that can help her move her stuff out.
Yeah.
Because it's very important that she seeks the help that she needs, and obviously she's not doing it with you.
Right. And you gotta, and don't feel, I feel like a lot of this letter, he was feeling bad in a way about even
Well,
considering
yeah,
leaving her.
he needs to talk to someone about those feelings
Yeah.
so he can get those out and express those in a healthy way.
Yeah, because your feelings matter. Your emotions matter. How you feel about the situation. Your safety matters. I don't care how society wants to downplay a woman's anger and aggression, but women can be just as crazy and violent as men can be when it comes to stuff.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's not appropriate or safe even for the man to have to tolerate a woman who is just, aggressive and violent or angry. Like that, it's just not fair for you either. So if the tables was turned and this was a man doing these things to a woman, the society would be quick to be like, oh, run, girl. No, yeah, so that's exactly what we're going to kind of tell you, is to really just protect yourself and do this in the best way possible.
right. They do it with some grace.
Yeah. Yeah, and
By all
love, yeah,
means.
that you have for her, because you do have that for her, and that's what we respect and commend you for. It takes a lot to even want to consider staying with this person and figure out how to
Right.
proceed in
I
the
mean,
proper way.
and then like we never said to not have an open line of communication with her if she's allowing it.
Right, yeah.
If she allows it, then check up on her once in a while and call her and talk to her.
Yeah.
But I don't you don't need to put your life on hold for her, because she's pretty much putting you all's relationship in standby mode, because it's going to be very hard for you to put a ring on her finger.
Yeah.
I tell you that.
And they haven't had kids. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you
Mhm.
kind of mentioned earlier it may be hormonal. Y'all haven't even had
And
kids.
children yet.
Imagine, like, thank goodness, don't do that. Get married and all other stuff, good stuff first. But imagine kids. You really got to consider how
Right.
hormones affect the woman. And if she is going through it
Postpartum,
now,
you don't want to have
yeah,
postpartum depression.
yeah.
You don't want her to be violent towards the baby.
Yeah,
But
or herself, or
because
you.
she sounds, I mean, I don't know her, but that's a possibility if she already is having some sort of instability mentally that's going on with her. So you really need to consider all of that before you put a ring on this lady's finger, or either a baby and a bun in the oven.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I often think that men, and I admire this about men so much, you in particular, the ability to want to solve a problem, especially if you recognize a woman.
One he can't solve.
Yeah, but that was exactly what I was gonna say. As a man, I think it's so important that I admire that y'all want to solve problems, but you gotta recognize when that's not your problem to solve, and that sometimes it's super important to just know when you are putting yourself a little bit too much at risk for something that may not be worth it in the end.
Don't be responsible for someone else's irresponsibilities. And in this case, she's being very irresponsible by not seeking professional help.
Yeah.
With her, situations and issues. So I think that's all I got for this.
Same.
We really appreciate you all for coming out. YouTube family, thank you all.
Instagram
followers. Yep. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. We really appreciate you at any time, every night, Monday through Friday. If you all have any questions during our show and you have topics that you want to talk about as well, please interrupt. Let us know. You can type it in the chat or either video. We can video call you or either voice.
Yeah, because we just do this to make us available for y'all. Like, it's not even so much about the questions, the scripts. We of course want to answer the questions too, but like the scripts that we go into, all of that's really to keep us up here and available for an hour to really assist the community if they need it. And
because everybody needs somebody to talk to, but do not always have access. But if you want to remain anonymous, you can also go to www.wifeconomics.com/submit a question and then submit us an anonymous message. You can send us comments, questions, or concerns or what have you. We really appreciate it. And until next time, Blueprint family, thank you all for joining us. Peace.